Hi guys, welcome to Counterpoints or Counterfire or wherever the hell you're watching this. And today is just going to be a rant and a channel update because frankly, I haven't had enough time in order to catch up, write things, edit things, do things. I haven't had time for anything. So I just want to tell you guys what's going on, catch you up on some of the parasocial relationships that we have going on in the space, tell you why everybody's an asshole and an idiot and F-slur, which I desperately want to say, but you know, we'll get into it. So let's get into it. So let's just, there's no particular order. We're just getting into all the things that are on the top of my brain. Endernax. I am actually sad. I am experiencing the emotion of sadness. And the reason why is because I met a young man probably about 2 years ago, I guess now. It was during like the hippy dippy and the Reverie Roundtable and all that kind of stuff. And he described himself as a Christian Democrat. So while still being a Christian nationalist or Christian separatist who believed that people needed to center religion as a part of their lives and that they needed to reconnect with morality and all that kind of stuff, he still believed in making the world a better place by using the state and its institutions in order to provide for people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And maybe he didn't like gay people or trans people or whatever and thought they were fucking crazy, but he didn't want to genocide them either. That's the person that I met 2 years ago. And he was intelligent and articulate, and he has a relatively white-pilling story. His white-pilling story is that he grew up in a tough household where they grew up in nice areas, but they didn't have a lot of money. Obviously, I'm just recalling all of this off the top of my head, but he grew up in nice areas, but his family themselves were broke. And so as a result, he grew up with a bunch of siblings, blah, 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 blah. And he was lazy and played video games and half-assed everything in his life and blah, 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 blah. But then eventually he goes to college and he decides, I'm gonna get my shit together. So he loses weight. Turns out that under his weight, he was a total fucking Giga Chad. And then after losing weight, he kind of is a psychopath manipulator of women for a while, but he decides that that's not for him anyways. And then he decides that he wants to be more moral. And now he's reconnected with his Christian roots and is trying to be a moral person. That's who I met 2 years ago. Endernax invited me to his wedding even. And I was really looking forward to going to that. And I actually regret not going because if I had the money, one, I would have gone. I think it would have been a fantastic adventure. Two, I wonder if we had connected on a firmer level if he'd be going down the path that he's currently going, which is bad. You know, what happened was I thought I was going to get a windfall of a few $1,000s. So we were going to travel out to see him. It was going to be my wife's and I's last hurrah before, before having, I don't know if it was our second kid or our first kid. It had to have been our second kid, but we were going to have like a last hurrah traveling, and then it just didn't work out. So it sucks. I wish I could have been there, whatever. So that being said, Endernax disappears for like 6 months because Dylan Burns I don't want to say makes up some shit, but you know, basically him and Dylan Burns get into some beef. It gets blown out of proportion. He dips out. You know, he's not as welcome in the Twitch and YouTube political space, and he decides to touch grass, marry his wife, move out, become a tech Luddite, and he disappears for 6 months. When he comes back, which I would say has been in the past 2 months, at least, you know, I'm not paying attention at time, but that would be my estimation. He's a Groyper Christian nationalist. And he said that all of his kindness to gay people and brown people and black people and transsexual people and all that kind of stuff, all of that was a LARP so he could gain access to the social areas that he thought would help him build clout. And now the scales have been pulled back from his eyes, and he now realizes that America First and Nick Fuentes and the Groypers is the way forward. That is so utterly fucking retarded, I can't see straight. And it actually, like, it borderline enrages me. The reason why is because I do think Nick Fuentes is charismatic. I do think he's intelligent. I do think he has a political mind. I do think that he's able to energize a base of, let's just be skeptical, 10,000 to 100,000 people genuinely like Nick Fuentes and think that authoritarian Christian nationalism is the way to go. I would say 100,000 people and a bunch of people obviously support the man. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to come and go over and over and over again with his online digital community. And so I basically criticize him right to his face because to me, this is like a friend. You know, this is somebody that I like. And I'm like, you're better than Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes apologizes in Sims for Xi Jinping and for Stalin and for Hitler. And he does a bunch of fucking Nazi memes. And in history, in the 30s and 40s, the Nazis, you know, and Christian nationalists, they went hand in hand because they viewed themselves as factions that were capable of going along together in order to defeat international Jewry and its many advances into, you know, Western society and how it was going to destroy Germany and all that kind of stuff. But the ultimate evil of the Nazis and their supporters was revealed when they began massacring people off of immutable characteristics. This seems obvious to me from like a liberal modern sensibility that we shouldn't just be butchering men, women, and children for their immutable characteristics or the characteristics that they can control. And it seems to me an evil act. Wild. I know. Wild take for the fucking internet is that slaughtering people or dispossessing them politically or ethnociding them or deporting them en masse for things that they can't control is not a good way to go forward. Weird, I know. So, Nick can have all of those positive attributes and still have a fundamentally evil and shitty worldview, right? Then Ender, giving up all of his redeeming qualities, giving up his own sense of self-autonomy, simping for a authoritarian simp is gross to me. So I just called him out directly. He ignored me, said we should get on stream and talk. He said, yeah. Then he ignored me. And then he tweeted recently, hey, if I'm not following you, tell me why I should follow you. I said, you're not following me. Weird. We've been friends for like 2 years, but you're not following me. Probably because I was calling out your dear leader. And he's like, yeah, but stop trying to pull me away from America first. Otherwise, I'm going to have to unfollow again. And it's like, okay. Like, I'll be your online friend or whatever, but like, I'm not going to not do what I do. So if you burn the bridge, that's on you. And then I just see disgusting replies from him. Like, the whole October 7th thing kicks off. That German lady who was fucking shot in the back of the head and her leg was bent in the wrong direction and Palestinians are spitting on her and dragging her corpse through the street and they're holding her head like she's a hunted trophy. You know, he replies because somebody is posting like an in memoriam thing and he's like, yeah, well, if she was home taking care of kids instead of being a whore, then she'd still be alive. Excuse me? What the fuck did you just say? Like, and for me, like, if that was in person, that's exactly what my response would be. It would be, excuse me, what the fuck did you just say? And if that person didn't back off of what they said, then things would escalate. Minimally, they would escalate rhetorically, right? I wouldn't associate with that person anymore at all. Because you can think, like, by the way, I don't think women should be doing drugs and going to parties with 300 other people and being loose with their sexuality and all that kind of stuff. But you're effectively digitally and rhetorically spitting on a dead person who was innocent in any regard that counts and was slaughtered by theocratic assholes. What the fuck are you doing? How does this advance Christianity? How does this advance the message of Christ? How does this advance religion or nationalism or anything? It's just being a fucking asshole for no goddamn discernible political reason. So I see that one. I see another few dozen ones. And I kind of call them out. What was the most recent one? Oh, I say, I talk about how Bernie Sanders or whatever didn't believe in a ceasefire because 1,500 Israeli people were slaughtered. And that's why, you know, he probably doesn't believe in a ceasefire between the IDF and Hamas, which I think is very reasonable. And he's like, yeah, well, a majority of them were soldiers. Source? And like, I get that it's funny to be an asshole about fucked up things, and then, you know, it's also soy and gay to be like, source? But source? Like, because all the videos that I saw were of like an international worker get his head chopped off with a fucking backhoe. It was 260 people, I think, getting shot at the party, which we now have more video for. I can't bring myself to watch the video because I don't need that kind of shit in my life, but we now have hundreds, if not thousands of reporters who have all seen the Hamas-massacre.com footage, and they've watched it in order to confirm that, like, yeah, people were set on fire, people were raped, people were decapitated, people got shot, men, women, children, babies, all that kind of stuff, and they were all shot. And then I think the current stats are like 216 of the people killed were soldiers, and 900 or 800 of them were civilians. At what point does that ever become justified? At what point is that justifiable at all? And then he just posts like a picture of a World War II bombed out city. It was probably Dresden, right? And so it's like, oh, so because 100 years ago, Europeans murdered each other at an industrial scale, that means that the slaughter, the indiscriminate slaughter or intentional slaughter of civilians in the modern era is acceptable. And if you wanted to have a nuanced conversation, if you wanted to say like, well, you know, I think that Israel started the problem by being a colonial project in the first place. I think they encroached on Palestinian lands. I think they put the Gaza Strip in particular in an unwinnable situation where diplomacy would never work. I think that the Palestinians have a right to resist. I think this, that, I think that. And as a result, you know, Israel fucked up. It's technically their fault for the 1,000 slaughtered people, either due to unpreparedness or moral issues surrounding settler colonialism. We can have that conversation. As a matter of fact, I've had that conversation dozens of times over the past week. I've talked to relatively serious people who are intelligent and emotional and empathetic and kind and decent, and they've articulated all of the complexities from like an Arab Muslim perspective and a Jewish perspective, and none of those people were actively, like, effectively rhetorically spitting on a murdered woman. None of them. Even the people who want to evaporate the state of Israel, which I think is insane, or the people who are, you know, advocating for Israel doing an invasion of Gaza right now, none of them were like, yeah, sweet, love dead kids, love murdered women, love people getting raped and executed and burned in fire. And that's the kind of disconnect where, to me, this is my beef with Endernax now, and this is my beef with America First in general, is you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't know what you're advocating for. You've never seen authoritarianism. You've never seen murder. You've never seen industrial scale murder. You've never seen war. So for you to be out here on fucking Twitter advocating for it, I'm just going to say the word, okay? If you're a progressive and you don't like slurs, just click off now. I don't give a shit. You're a fucking faggot, okay? You are. And I don't mean that in the sucking dicks, homosexual, effeminate men kind of way. I mean in the absolute unbearable way in which you are insistent and annoying in a degree, but once you're touched by the real world, you probably fall apart like wet fucking tissue paper. And this is another thing that I think it just needs to be said. I think everything that I say just needs to be said. We have allowed the left to rhetorically control language over the past decade. And what that did was they said things like, well, you shouldn't use bitch because it's a gendered slur. And as a result, when women hear you use bitch, then they feel like you're attacking their gender and all that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, that's true. But some people are bitches, meaning that they're simultaneously effeminate and fall apart like wet tissue paper, but they also are assertive and aggressive and mean and cruel. And they should just be called a bitch, right? Because bitch can simultaneously mean that you're cruel or mean, but it can also mean that like you're wimping out, basically. So bitch is a very versatile insult. Retard, one of my favorite words that went out of style for like a year and now it's back. Retard, they're like, it's ableist. There's people who have Asperger's and ADHD and all that kind of bullshit. And when they hear you, and Down syndrome, and when they hear you say the word retard, you think that you're impugning and dehumanizing them. It's like, yeah, like I don't want to dehumanize people who suffer from mental and physical disabilities, but there are people who advocate for ideas that are so disconnected from reality or logical thought that they have to be called a retard in order to impugn their ideas of not worthy of consideration. And when you remove the word retard, then every idea is worthy of consideration. because and that's like a leftist goal, is like the egalitarian consideration of everybody's fucking worldview. And it's like, no, not everybody has an idea worth considering, and there are things that you can dismiss out of hand, and there are ideas and people so stupid or so disconnected from reality, then you can dismiss them out of hand by calling them an insult and moving on with your life. And so robbing people of the ability to do a slur, which is like a heavy insult, and then just move on with their lives. We've now been considering the utter insanity of totally batshit people for a fucking decade online, and you've removed our weapons. So what I'm saying is, sorry, YouTube, if this gets demonetized. Sorry, fucking terms of service for Twitch or whoever the fuck is watching this. Sorry to the sensitive, progressive people who are actually advocating for the well-being of all human beings, which, by the way, I do as well. But we keep slurs and insults to dismiss and deride people who are not worthy of consideration. Now, maybe they're worthy of empathy. Maybe they're worthy of some level of baseline human respect where we don't murder them, but they are not worthy of consideration. And I'm just going to say it right now. Endernax, I love you. I hope you're a different person in a year or two. But right now, you're acting like a fucking bitch and a faggot, and I fucking hate it. Why are you doing this? Why are you spitting on the grave of a fucking slaughtered woman? Why are you passing around propaganda as if it's true in order to attack Jews, most of whom haven't done shit to you? Now, you could even have the anti-Zionist, anti-APAC, America needs to run its own affairs perspective and still not believe that every single Jewish person is responsible for the misery of America. But of course, we always have to paint it in black and white. We can't have any fucking nuance about anything ever. And so as a result of you not having nuance, I'm going to call you a retarded bitch faggot. Okay? Your ideas are beneath consideration. They should not be considered. Ethno-nationalism or race realism and Christian nationalism, not only is it only wildly popular with, I don't know, 3% of the fucking population, you maybe have a fellow traveler base of 25% in the United States of America that's increasingly decreasing with secularization and globalization. And by the way, thinking that you can stop globalization is like, okay, so uninvent the internet, uninvent air travel, uninvent international commerce, and then maybe you can reverse globalism. But I don't think people are giving up air travel, international commerce, or any of the fucking thing. Like, you're talking about neo-Ludditism. So not only are you retarded, you're ineffective. It's embarrassing. Like, what the fuck? So anyways, that's how I feel about it. Talking about future projects and some of the frustrations with that. We have a decent amount of people collecting in the state of Florida. What I mean by that is Erudite and her husband, Nick, have moved to the state of Florida. They're actually not very far away from me. They're about 2 hours away from me. Destiny is about 3 hours away from me. He's down in Miami. I think everybody knows that. And Pixie and Straighteraid and a few other people are either here or they've moved here, right? So we're going to try to do some collaborative IRL content going forward. And I get that these people are sexual degenerates and they're fucking progressives and they're gross and this, that, the other, blah, 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 blah. But the truth is, a healthy chunk of them are interesting and fun and have large platforms and all that kind of stuff. And as a result, you know, I want to interact with them for my benefit and for their benefit as well. Okay, so we will probably have some streams in the future with those people, IRL, but getting streamers together is like herding fucking cats. So if it takes longer than usual, then I'm sorry, but that's what's going on. When it comes to Destiny, I love Destiny. He's a interesting, intelligent, charismatic fella, but I think it just needs to be said, and it needs to be said flatly. The guy is a psychopath. Okay. And I don't mean that as an indictment of his character, although I don't like some of the way he lives, the same way that I'm sure he doesn't like some of the way that I live, but he does not have feelings and empathy the way that other people do. And what I would say by that is just using Sherry as an example. And now I realize that I'm bringing up drama that I'm not a part of again. But, you know, when you're in the orbit and people are fighting each other and all that kind of shit, there's this fucking chilling effect where you don't want to talk about it because you don't want to step on people's toes. But the truth is, everybody would be better off if everybody called each other out. So I'm just gonna give my hot takes, my thoughts on the Sherry Destiny TwitchCon drama. Destiny is a busy man. He probably has a few hundred or a few thousand people who are reaching out to him at any given time. And the fact that he responds to most of them, including myself, is a courtesy. It is a professional courtesy that he does not need to pay to his peers and orbiters. Okay. He could ride off into the sunset, go do a bunch of podcasts, clout chase with everybody else, and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of people, including myself, value him on a professional level, because if I send a DM to Destiny, I might not get a response immediately, and I might not get a response within the first 2 or 3 days. But if I send a follow-up with a question or whatever, then typically I will get an honest and earnest response. That is very nice to have somebody who's that large who will respond to their direct messages and their emails, right? And who is interested in collaborating with people who are substantively smaller in the hopes of, creating content. I think that's an extremely valuable professional attitude that people take advantage of, and that people presume, when the truth is that you could just be Vosh in the fucking Fortress Arc and make a few $100,000 a year and chill. And that's what most creators do, by the way. They cut themselves off from the exterior world. But I think it needs to be remarked that Sherry did not have a good couple of days. She was interested in being at TwitchCon so she could hang out and talk with Destiny. And Destiny did not reply to her messages, did not acknowledge her allegedly in person. And also, when she was having not a good time about that, he ignored her on top of that. So hopefully they've DM'd each other. Hopefully it's resolved, all that kind of stuff. But I still see her posting about it. What I want to tell smaller, I don't want Destiny to change. Destiny's Destiny. He is what he is. Okay. And so I don't expect him to change. I expect him to be self-interested. I expect him to want to bang a lot of women. I expect him to want to make a lot of money. I expect him to want to be the smartest guy in the room. I expect him to want to be an aggressive debater. That is what I expect of Destiny. That's what I expect of Destiny today. That's what I expect of him tomorrow. That's what I expect of him a decade from now. What I would say to smaller and mid-level creators and orbiters who seek Destiny's approval or attention, do not take his opinion of you or his interest in you as an evaluation of your worth as a human being. Because I think that the only way to consistently get Destiny's attention, which by the way this is like a relatively normal human thing, is to have something of interest to him and him alone. So if you're a hot girl and you want to show him some tits and some punani, he will be interested in that. If you're an intelligent person and you can debate, he will be interested in that. If you want to go do something that he's interested in doing, like shooting guns or getting food or something like that, he will be interested in that. But to expect him, for you to extend all of your love and care and all of that kind of stuff, and to project all this bullshit onto him about how you want him to be and all that kind of stuff, is not going to work. It's not going to work. He's his own person. When you are hurting because he has not fit the mold of your expectations, he either doesn't feel that or doesn't care. And so stop. This is my advice to small and mid-level orbiters who want Destiny to change for them. Stop expecting that. It's not going to happen. Be of interest, be of worth, have fun, and dip out. That's it. All right. Next note. Brianna Wu. Brianna Wu is having a rough time. Her Twitter account, I believe, is locked at this time. She is not as actively responding to my text messages as she normally does. She is disappointed in the left wing because I think that she presumed over the past half decade to decade that the moral authority with which the left wing asserted itself, saying that the right wing is filled with fascists and authoritarians and psychopaths and conspiracy theorists and racists and bigots and homophobes and transphobes and all that kind of stuff. I think she presumed that while she has become exhausted and started moving center on some issues and also been more interested in building relationships with the center, I did not think that she thought that there were as many evil, lunatic, conspiracy theorist, religious zealots on the left. She legitimately did not believe that. And so my perception, exterior perception, is since October 7th, she has realized that a lot of her fellow travelers through policy are effectively evil. And that is not something she was ready for. Like it's one thing to unknowingly fuck up and then cause harm in the world. Like, that's something that we all deal with on a day-to-day basis. Friends, family members, fellow travelers, workers, whatever. We all hurt each other unintentionally. What she wasn't ready for, in my exterior perception, is for people to hurt other people for immutable characteristics and then to say, yes, good, I am happy I hurt you. And for them to cheer on rape and murder from the left. That was not expected to her. Now, for those of us like me and PF Young and Sitch and Adam Friended and, a whole host of Twitter and YouTube and political centrists, we have been screaming for the rooftops for the past half decade that the right wing has issues. It is true, but we are the right wing that we would like to see in the world. I don't know how Sitch and Adam feel about this, but them pretending to be left wing at this point is fucking insane. They're like center-right liberals. Fucking deal with it. The Overton window has shifted. But there are authoritarian lunatics on the left who are setting the foundations for something disgusting, authoritarian, and potentially resulting in mass slaughter. And if we look at the history books, if we look at China, if we look at Russia, if we look at Cambodia, if we look at all the places that socialism or communism has been tried, even though it wasn't true socialism or wasn't real communism or whatever the fuck, these people believe in those projects, think that they're different, but their methodology is the same. And so there is nothing that will prevent another mass slaughter along the intersectional power dynamic analyses that have infected our social rhetoric. And so I've been crying about this. I've been screaming at this from the fucking rooftops for a decade, right? And I think Brianna, this could be a projection. She can use her own words in order to do it. She finally sees what I saw. She sees what Sitch saw. She sees what Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks saw. She sees what Dave Rubin saw, even though he's a fucking idiot and a lunatic now. She sees what Jordan Peterson saw. She sees what Sam Harris saw. And so as a result, probably policy-wise, she's still very much on the left. She probably wants universal health care. She probably wants trans rights for adults. She probably wants the ability to transition. She probably wants homosexuals to be able to be public without discrimination. She probably wants, minorities to be able to immigrate without discrimination. She probably wants a whole host of lefty fucking things, but she is now disgusted by the far left, which to me, it's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt a lot, but that is an opportunity for growth. So... President Sunday, he sucks. He sucks ass. He does nothing. Okay? He whines and whinges about other alternative media creators who are not much larger than him. And he complains about the way that they're doing things while accomplishing nothing. I don't want to talk about him for too long because I literally just blocked him, and I think everybody should block him and just move on. But the reason why I don't want to spend a whole lot of time about him is because he's beneath consideration. Now, I am desperately tempted to use the F slur, but it has come to my attention that he is actually homosexual, and therefore, I don't want to impugn his homosexuality. I'm not going to impugn him for being attracted to men. That's not what I dislike about the man. What I dislike about the man is that he's pusillanimous, that he is cowardly in a face-to-face conversation, that he leaves conversations that he agreed to be a part of, and he simultaneously acts like he is smarter than everybody else in the room. I was like, okay, if you're smarter than everybody else in the room, please show me your money. Please show me your wealth. Please show me your political influence. Please show me the electoral things you're going after. Please show me the non-electoral things going after. Please show me the projects that you're working on. Please show me the base that you've built. Please show me the ideas that you're building upon. Please show me all of that stuff. And what I think we have when I look at President Sunday, this is an exterior perception and maybe it's uncharitable. I think we have a few hundred giga progressive woke skull dickheads who are purity testing against the rest of the left. That's what I see. So I don't see productivity. I don't see money. I don't see a base. I don't see political influence or power. I don't see good ideas. I don't see shit. And so as a result, I won't call him the F slur, but I'll call him a bitch. He's a bitch. And I'll call him pusillanimous, which is the long version of pussy. And I will call him a retard, because even though that's ableist, and he does have autism and ADD, I'm sure, or ADHD or whatever the fuck. So therefore, I'm being ableist and I'm being rude to characteristics that he can't control. There is a wide variety of behavior that he engages in that he could control and actively chooses not to. So I'm going to remain ableist. I think he is a retarded bitch pussy, deserving of contempt, but beneath consideration. That is the way that I feel. Which brings us to me using slurs of the potential for the next year. So in the next year, we are hoping to gather enough money, time, and attention in order to do disaster relief in communities in real life, and then also to build electoral systems for both Republicans and Democrats, local community organizations, and intelligent people. Shit, this brings us all the way back to Endernax. If Endernax was in New Hampshire, or if he was in Boston, or if he was in Montana or Wyoming or wherever the fuck he was doing his stupid Ted Kaczynski tech Luddite shit, I would absolutely reach out to him. He seems like a competent project manager. He seems like a charismatic person. He seems like somebody who would be able to get a few dozen volunteers together and to work hard for a week and then to eat some fucking Chick-fil-A or some pizza or whatever and then come back for the fucking election in order to help people register to vote and then vote for their respective candidates that they believe in and then build the white pill infrastructure that we need in order to save the country from ourselves. I would love to do that. But the truth is that as long as he is cheering on the deaths of civilians, I'm going to call him a bitch. So, and I'm not interested in working with him on real world white pill on the ground shit when he's doing the same thing where he's trying to black pill people and take advantage of their black pill and then turn that into monetization, time, and attention. I have other things that I could talk about, why my life is tough and hard and busy and all that kind of stuff. I could also talk about the dynamics of creators who are taking advantage of your black pills in order to get money, time, and attention. But I think I can do it in like 20 seconds and then I can dip out so I can keep the video relatively short. Creators, Lauren Southern, Tim Pool, Destiny, Vosh, all these people. What they do is they talk about the most sensational things of the day, whether that's interpersonal drama, news stories, genocides, war, whatever, which is cool. And I love that. I love talking about that shit myself. I'm very happy to be a part of the Twitch and YouTube political community. But what they do that's a little bit different to greater and lesser degrees is they present these things as existential crises that only they have the correct prescription for. And because they are firmly in political camps, I know that Destiny is probably like the most centrist and heterodox and esoteric creator out of the people that I just mentioned, but he is a liberal and he is a progressive liberal. Like, let's just face it. So he's a progressive liberal. So he's the representative of a clear political camp. And then Lauren Southern would be, dissident right. Nick Fuentes would be Christian nationalists. Richard Spencer would be alt-right ethno-nats, anti-religious ethno-nationalists, so on and so forth, right? Vosh would be anarcho and libertarian socialist, but then he has to excuse slaughter by brown people because they're the dispossessed, they're the people at the bottom of the intersectional hierarchy. And so as a result, when they murder people, sometimes it's understandable, all that kind of bullshit, right? Although, you know what? That's mildly unfair because he has gone to war with those people rhetorically in the past. But also, the Republicans are fascists and they're going to kill you all. And we're 2 steps away from a trans genocide. And what these people do, respective of their factions, is they alarm you about what's going on in the world from your political tribalist viewpoint. And then they take your time and attention. They turn that into advertising dollars and super chat donos because they're the people who are intelligent enough to tell you the solutions to the problems. Maybe they don't even do that. Maybe they just tell you about the problems over and over and over again. But they don't tell you the actual solutions to the problems. They don't actually go out into the world. They don't actually start building communities or talking to people or, working on school reform or any of that kind of shit. What they do instead is they just keep talking endlessly about problems, how they're the correct, et cetera, and then they keep reinforcing their political tribe. And so they become the de facto leaders of these political tribes, and they capitalize on the time, attention, and money while changing nothing. Part of the reason, maybe this is cope, part of the reason why I feel like I do not do as well as these other creators is because I don't have a tribalist perspective and I am not interested in reinforcing your preconceived biases. I am interested in telling you what I believe to be true, not just true in some way that's going to be monetizable, but also just what I believe to be true, factual, representative of reality based off of my perspective. And I also want to try to tell you what I think will actually fix things. So 50 to 100 years from now, we're not talking about the same problems because we've moved on to new and different problems. That's what I want to do. And so what I would say is if you're similarly minded, stick around. I'm probably going to start doing more rant stuff like this because it's easier to do. I write down 8 bullet points of things that are pissing me off, and then I talk about them. I don't have to script aggressively. I don't have to edit aggressively. I don't have to download videos and stats and all that kind of bullshit. I can just start talking to you and I can put out content. If it starts doing well, then we're going to build that, and eventually we're going to do the high-end content, but it is what it is for now because I only have so much time and attention. Anyways, rant over. Parasocial love to you and yours. I hope you have a fantastic day. Take your daily fucking white pill. Take your blue pill. Take your red pill. Take your purple pill. Take all of your pills. And then try to have a good day and try to make the world a better place than it was when you woke up, even if it's just organizing your refrigerator or giving a family member a hug or texting a friend. Go take your daily white pill. Appreciate you. Catch you in the next one. Bye.